Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I welcome you once again to this second segment on our management accounting lecture designed to cover the absorption costing, marginal costing techniques, as well as the job, batch, service, and process costing. So this is actually a series, one of the videos within a series where we'll be tackling these issues. All right. So in our previous video, we have already covered the two parts, that is absorption costing and marginal costing. Now we are going to tackle job, batch, and service costing. With time permitting, we also have to tackle on the process costing part of it. Now let us jump straight to job costing. All right, job costing is actually where a unique item is being made and cost can be specifically traced into that item. So this item is actually unique by, when we are saying unique, it means that it is not always going to be similar to the other job that has been done. All right, it might be, for example, a service, a car service. Usually, a service of a particular car is actually targeted to that particular car only. All right, so no other car is going to have the same number plate, the same features. That's the idea of a job because it is targeted to a particular customer's needs. All right, and it is not going to be the same again, even if it is given, when it is given to the same customer. All right, but in the managerial sense, it is actually a different job, even if it was given to the same customer. Let's say that you bring your car for a engine checkup, all right, today, and then you come again next week and we do the same engine checkup. It is actually going to be a different job, a different service. So what is actually a job? A job is a cost unit which consists of a single order or contract. Remember we talked of this cost unit in previous videos where we said that a cost unit is a unit of a product to which cost can be related or to which cost can be accumulated. So a job could be large, such as building a house or a ship, or small, such as constructing a set of shelving for a room. Often jobs are given identifying numbers such as contract numbers or simply job numbers. So you discover that a number would also depend on a company. For example, if it is a car service, would just say, a code like car 1, 2, 3. It doesn't mean that this was the number plate of the car. No, it simply means that for our coding purposes, for us to know which job was done, they are given unique numbers. All right, unique numbers, so that we can evaluate all the jobs, or we can account for all the jobs which we have done. All right, so all relevant costs are labeled with the same number. All right, whether it was assembly cost, welding cost, they are all going to be referenced with the same number, CAR 1, 2, 3. All right. Material costs, either invoices for specially bought material or requisition from stores, can be labeled with the job number so that material costs can be accounted for. Labor costs, timesheets can be filled using the same job number to track how the labor or the employees were working on that job, or the time which they spent on that particular job. Other expenses, if direct, then the job number will be noted against that cost. If indirect, then expenses are often charged to a job on the basis of time and an overhead absorption rate. So there is a particular pro forma which we need to know about the double entry involved in recording the expenses, or in recording jobs which have been done, right? So whatever expense which you incur, we have to account it in an accounting sense. So the job account usually is like this. The job account is a T account, remember? Okay, the double entry which is involved. All right, all the materials used, issued to this particular job. All right, the direct labor which worked on this particular job. All right, and we also have to debit this account by the direct expenses incurred. Remember, a job is actually a cost, okay? The cost, so this is why we are debiting it, right? So whatever costs which we incurred, we're going to debit this account. The production overheads, using the overhead predetermined rate, okay, or at a predetermined overhead absorption rate. Then other overheads are also going to be included on the debit side, and then the transfer would be to the finished goods, finished jobs. That's the transfer we are going to have. So in the exam, you just have to memorize this job account for you to be able to answer what is going on. All right, so all the costs which have been incurred are put on the debit side, and then the transfers are going to be to be charged to the finished goods account or finished jobs account. All right, that is that. So when upon completion of the job account is charged with the appropriate administration, selling, and distribution overhead, after which the total cost of the job can be ascertained. All right, so the difference between the agreed selling price and the total actual cost will be the supplier's profit in the end. All right, that is what is happening. So this is it. We have also talked of the coding, all right, that jobs are given, the numbers, all right. There could also be what are called job cuts. All right, so when jobs are completed, job cuts are transferred from the work in progress category to finished goods. All right, so when delivery is made to the customer, the cost become a cost of sale. All right, now job cards exist in manual systems. All right, they are usually related to manual systems. These days it's all about computerized accounting systems. All right, so there are what are called job costing systems, which are in a computerized environment where we'll be having some accounting software, all right, designed for job costing these days. They are now accounting software. So what you need is you just have to appreciate both the manual system as well as the computerized system. All right. The idea behind having job cards is that we need to account for every cost, every material that we have bought for a particular job. All right. So remember, these job cards are actually given the same job number. All right. So reference with the job number, which we have just talked about. All right. They itemize all costs, all materials. Okay, all costs are recorded on this card. From labor, from direct materials which have been used, everything is actually recorded in the job card. So even if it is a computerized system, all the information should actually be input into the system. All right, I think that is that. All right, let us try to do an example to illustrate what we are talking about. There is Kojiko in which is a company that carries out jobbing work. One of the jobs carried out in May was job XPG23, to which the following information relates. So there is direct material Y 400 kilos, which were issued from stores at a cost of $5 per kilo. Direct material Z 800 kilos, which were issued from stores at a cost of $6 per kilo. 60 kilos were returned to stores. Department P 300 labor hours were worked, of which 100 were overtime. Department Q 200 labor hours were worked, of which 100 were overtime. Overtime work is not normal in Department P, where basic pay is $6 per hour plus an overtime premium of $1 per hour. Overtime work was done in Department Q in May because of a request by the customer of another job to complete his job quickly. Basic pay in Department Q is $8 per hour and overtime premium is $50 per hour. Overhead is absorbed at the rate of $3 per direct labor hour in both departments. Calculate the direct materials cost of job XPG23, calculate the direct labor cost of job XPG23, calculate the full production cost of XPG23 using absorption costing. So we can actually determine our part A in a simple way, where we just have to follow our format of job cost card. We start with the direct materials, labor, as we go on and on. All right, so let us start the direct material component, because we are required only to calculate direct materials for this particular job. So the direct materials, we've got direct material Y, direct material Z. Okay, so let's start with Y. Y 400 kilos at $5. So that's direct material Y. We have got 400 kgs at $5, which is equal to 2,000. And then we have got material Z, direct material Z, that's 800 were issued from stores at a cost of $6 per kilo. 60 were returned, 60 kgs were returned. So we only want the relevant materials, which were 800 minus 60, okay, kgs, multiplied by $6. $6, okay, and we have to get something like 800 minus 60, that's 740, multiplied by 6, that's 4,444. 4,440 rather, okay, and we get the total of 6,440. That's for the first part, and then we go to the second part, that is part B. Part B, calculate the direct labor cost for this particular job. So for the direct labor, we then have to consider the labor information, that's Department P and Department Q. Let's start with Department P, that's 300 labor hours department pay. We are being told of 300 hours. Okay, 300 hours we worked, of which 100 were overtime. All right, how much were this overtime being paid per hour? All right, so we we have to consider the basic pay. All right, the basic pay is $6 per hour, so that's multiplied by $6. All right, so we get our $1,800. All right. Remember, this statement is saying 300 labor hours were worked, of which 100 hours were overtime. We know that within the overtime, there is also a basic hour, a basic pay component. All right. So this is why we have included all the 300 hours which has been worked, because they include the 200 normal hours and 100 hours, okay, which were overtime. But what we know is within the overtime, there is basic pay and overtime premium. All right. So the direct labor cost is the basic pay component within the normal hours and the overtime hours, the basic pay component. All right. So they come to 300 hours altogether. Then there is department Q. Department Q. Okay. Department Q, where the labor hours were 200 labor hours, of which 100 were overtime. So we just do the same, 200 hours multiplied by this department was being paid, department Q was being paid $8 per hour. So $8, so that's 1,600. We add them up, we get a total of 3,400. Okay, once we are done, we then have to move on to the part C. All right. The overtime premium will be charged to overhead in the case of department P. All right, and to the job of the customer who asked for the overtime to be worked in the case of department Q. All right, as written here, overtime work is not normal divided by P, where basic pay is $6 per hour plus an overtime premium of $1 per hour. Overtime work was done in department Q in May because of a request by customer of another job to complete this job quickly. All right. Basic pay in department Q is $8 per hour and overtime. So overhead absorption absorbed at the rate of $10 per direct labor hour in both departments. So that's actually not an issue. So that means is overtime premium, okay, will be charged to overhead in the case of department P. All right. So overhead premium is actually an indirect cost, all right, to department P. However, to department Q, it is actually part of the overhead, of the production cost, direct cost, because it was at the insistence of the customer. However, it was accounted for in May. All right, so it was accounted for as such in May. Right. I think there it is actually solved. All right. Okay. So although it was done in May, we also have to understand that it was done for another job. Okay. So it, the premium component does not affect this particular job X, the job XBG23. Okay, the premium component does not affect the job, all right, but it actually affects the cost of, the premium affects the other job, not this current job. All right. So this is why we are only taking the basic pay component of the contained overtime. All right. Let us proceed with our computation for part C. Calculate the full production cost of job XBG 23 using absorption costing. So for the part C, we then have to consider the direct materials, which we have already computed. We have already computed this figure, which was 6,440. So 6,440, and then direct labor costs. We already calculated this one again as 3,400. Okay, but we have to consider the production overhead, because we are told overheads are absorbed at the rate of $3 per hour. So $3 per hour. So production overhead. All right, they are being absorbed at the rate of $3 per hour. So we need to establish how many hours are we talking about. All right, labor hours, how many hours? There was 300 and 200 labor hours, so that's 500 in total. So that's 500 hours. So if we multiply, we get 1,500. We then add up these figures, we should get our 11,340. Okay, let's talk of cost plus pricing. All right, cost plus pricing is a method of determining the sales price by calculating the full cost of a product and adding a percentage markup for profit. The full cost may be a fully absorbed production cost only, or it may include some absorbed administration, selling, and distribution overhead, which is a non-production overhead. Okay, so we are saying we have to determine a sales price by calculating the full cost of production. All right, and then we add some percentage on top, which is some markup for profit. All right, so that's what we did here. This is actually the full production cost, which we have determined using absorption costing here. All right, as part C there. All right, then after doing this, we then have to add a markup on top so that we get some profit. All right, let us do example Brivacor. Brivacor budgets to have a variable cost of production of $4 per unit. Fixed production costs are $6,000 per month. A customer requests a job. All right, a customer requests a job of 5,000 units. This will take exactly 1 month to produce. The selling price is to be 40%. So calculate the selling price of the job using the cost plus pricing method. So our full cost of production should actually be full cost per unit should be the variable cost plus the fixed costs. All right. So what was the total variable cost? We are told that the variable cost per unit is $4 per unit multiplied by the number of units. So total variable cost should be $4 per unit multiplied by 5,000 units, which should be $20,000. And we are also told that the fixed costs in total are, total fixed costs are 6,000. All right, they're 6,000. So the full cost should equal to $26,000. All right, that's the full cost. All right, and then we are told the selling price is to be 40% higher than the full cost. So that means we have to multiply this by 1.4. Multiply this by 1.4. 1.4, ladies and gentlemen, is equal to 140 over 100. Okay? Because we have to add 40%. Remember, 40% is equal to 0.4 or is equal to 40 over 100, which is equal to 0.4. But we are told that we have to add this 0.4 on top of a certain figure. All right. A certain figure we are talking about is a 100% figure. All right. It's a 100% figure. 100% is equal to 100 over 100, which is equal to 1. So we are adding 0.4 plus 1, which gives us 1.4. And this is the reason I said we have to multiply by 1.4. Are we together? Just replay what I was saying so that we move together. Otherwise, we won't finish. All right? Otherwise, we won't finish. So just replay that part so that you understand what I was talking about. So 26,000 multiplied by 1.4, we get 36,400. This is the selling price of the job. Okay, that's the selling price. Okay, so if the question says how much was the profit, the profit is equal to selling price minus full cost, that is 36,400 minus the full cost of 26,000. Then we get how much? 36,400 minus 26,000. We get 10,400 as your profit. So from this question, we can see that 40% is actually the profit. Let us prove if 40% is the profit. We have discovered that the profit is 10,400. So if we have to determine if 10,400 is actually 40%, right? So we say 10,400 divided by the selling price, 36,400. $10,400 divided by 36,400. Obviously, it's not. So we have used the wrong figure, right? So we should actually have used 10,400 divided by 26,000. All right. And this should actually give us the 40%. 26,400, 26,000 net. Yes, this gives us the 40%. All right. So it should be 40% of the total cost. All right. I had actually calculated the margin, not the markup. The markup is 40% of the cost, right? Because from our definition here, it should be cost plus pricing is a method of determining the sales price by calculating full cost of a product and adding a percentage markup. So it should be the percentage markup, which is uh, the profit um, divided by the cost of the product. Okay, I hope there we are together. So we have proved that 40% was actually 40%, I mean the percentage markup on cost. Okay, the markup on cost. All right, and sure there we have been helped. Let us move um, to the issues to do with internal services. All right, it is also possible to use a job costing system to control the cost of an internal service department, such as the maintenance department and the printing department. If we use good job costing techniques to their full potential, we are highly likely to reduce unnecessary costs which could be incurred by our sister departments within an organization. All right, so there is going to be some advantages, all right, within the job costing system with regards to internal services. For example, there is going to be some realistic apportionment, okay, of overhead. All right, because expenses within a particular job would be clearly identified. All right, for the subsequent charging, okay, to those departments. All right, there is also an issue of increased responsibility. If managers now know that whatever they will be doing is now under scrutiny, there is increased responsibility and awareness. All right, everyone would be actually busy to ensure that he doesn't cross the line, he doesn't exceed the budgeted cost, or he doesn't exceed or incur unnecessary costs. All right, there is also going to be enhanced control. All right, enhanced control of service departments, because we'll be monitoring whatever job that is being done. All right, if a job has got unnecessary cost, we actually have to put the service the service center that is given that job or service to a particular department to actually account on why the costs are so high this time. They have to actually justify. All right, then there is also an issue of proper planning. Okay, if we are doing the job costing within our internal department, if we are following the principles of job costing, there is also an issue of improved planning. Costs are not just going to be incurred anyhow by these service departments. All right, I think we just have to do one example before we move on to batch costing. All right, we just have to do one example and then we move on to job costing. All right, there is this particular example, example Dembele. All right, Dembele Co is into edible oil manufacturing business in Mashonaland in East Zimbabwe. The company has 3 production departments, A, B, and C, which have overhead absorption rates per direct labor hour of $12.86, $12.40, and $14.03 respectively. 2 types of oils are to be manufactured for customers. Direct costs are as follows: job olive, job cooks. Labor rates are as follows: that is $3.80 per department A, $3.50, B, $3.40, department C. Calculate the total cost of each job. All right, so we just have to be a bit systematic. We then have to say job. We've got job olive and job cooks. Okay, these are the two jobs which we are doing, but we know that a cost card starts normally with direct materials. Okay, and we have got direct material for job olive is this one, and for job cooks is that one. So that's $154 dollars and 108 dollars. Okay, we then go to direct labor. Direct labor is per department. We've got department A, B, C. So let's start with department, for the job olive work, there is 20 hours department A, but these guys are being paid at $3.80. All right, so 20 department A, just have to say department A. We're talking of $3.80 multiplied by 20 hours. Okay, and that gives us $76. We then go to department B. They are being paid how much? $3.50, and they worked 12 hours. So that's $3.50 by 12 hours. $12 per hour. Okay. 12 hours. $3.50 multiplied by 12 hours, and that should give us $42. We then go to department C. Department C, they are being paid how much? $3.40, and they worked 10 hours. So that's $3.40 by 10. And this gives us $34. All right. We can add up 154 plus 76 plus 42 plus 34. This gives us 306. All right. Then we move on to this other job cooks. We do the same. Department A for this job, they worked how many? 16 hours, but they are still being paid $3.80 in department A. Okay, so that's 16 hours by $3.80. All right, we use our calculators. We should get our $60.80. We go to department B. They worked how many hours? 10 hours at $3.50. So that's 10 multiplied by $3.50. That's $35. We move on to department C. They worked 14 hours at $3.40. Okay, and this must give us $47. That's $47. We add them up, we should get something. 108 plus 50.8 plus 35 plus 47.60, that's 251.40. Okay, once we do this, we then have to say these ones are our total direct costs. Okay, then we have to worry about the overhead. The overhead. All right, we've got department A, department B, department C. Okay, so if we go to our question, we are told that the overheads, all right, are going to be absorbed on these. The overhead absorption rate, all right, has been these values, and the overheads are being absorbed on direct labor hour. All right, so those were the overhead absorption rates. So if we multiply with the level of activity, which is the hours involved in each department, we are highly likely to come with good figures. For example, for the job Olive, the activity was 20 hours in department A multiplied by the overhead absorption rate of $12.86. So department A, that's 20 hours multiplied by $12.86. $12.86. And we should get our 257.20. For department B, we do the same. That's 12 hours multiplied by $12.40. 12 hours multiplied by $12.40. And we should get our 148. 80. Please verify with your calculator. Then for department C, that's 10 hours at 1403. So that's 10, 1403, and we get our 140, 140, 30. All right. So you can see that the total now, the total direct cost plus overhead for this product Olive should actually come to 852. All right, 852.30. We go to this other job here and we do the same for department A. We are saying that for department A, they worked 16 hours for job cooks and they are paid $12.86. So 16 multiplied by 12.86. We get our value of 205. Okay, 76. We go to department B. Department B, they worked 10 hours at $12.40. So that's 10, $12.40. And this gives us 124. All right. Department C, they worked 14 hours at 1403. So we are going to get 196.42. We add them up and they should give us 251 plus 40, 205, 176, 124, 196.42, that's 77.58. Okay, that's the total cost because we were required to calculate the total cost of each job, and these were the total costs that you can see there. All right, so let us rush to batch costing. All right, in batch costing, several identical items are produced as a batch. Each batch will be given a number so that cost can be traced into the batch. The batch cost can be averaged over the units produced. All right. So let us do this example, ladies and gentlemen, so that we rest our case for this part, and we will move on to process costing later on. Okay, so we have got BET forklifts called BFC, which manufactures model forklifts and has the following budgeted overheads for a period. We have got department, welding, and assembly. These are the two departments. Then budgeted overheads are those ones, budgeted activity, that one. Selling and administrative overheads are 20% of production cost. Production of 250 model forklifts type XJS1 made as batch 487 incurred the following costs. Those are the costs. The cost of hiring special X-ray equipment for testing the welds is $500. Calculate the cost per unit for the batch. So the first thing we have to do, ladies and gentlemen, is to determine the overhead absorption rate for each department. And for your information, overhead absorption rate is equal to budgeted overhead divided by budgeted activity. Okay, that's the information, ladies and gentlemen, which we should use in our computation. So if we are given that, if you know that, you then have to say for department, for welding, OAR, welding is equal to budgeted overhead divided by budgeted activity. So that's 6,000 divided by 1,500, and this should give us to $4 per hour. That's $4 per hour. For OAR assembly, for assembly department, we're going to say 10,000 over 1,000. So that's 10,000 over 1,000, and this should actually lead us to $10 per hour. Okay, now let us compute the total cost for batch 487. Remember that the batch number is 487. The way we discuss in job costing, we say that every job is given a unique number. Similarly, in the batch costing system, we are also going to give each batch a number. All right. So the total cost now, total cost batch number 487. Okay, so we're going to start with the direct material. Ladies and gentlemen, follow this standard cost card on how we account for these costs. All right, you start with the direct material, direct labor, overheads, what, blah, blah. Okay, that's what you are going to do. So the direct materials from the question, we are told that they were 12,000 clearly as that. So that's 12,000 clearly. And then we go to the direct labor. Direct labor. For the direct labor now, we have to consult. Labor is this one. So there were 100 hours welding shop at $8 per hour, and then 200 hours assembly shop at $9. So let us take down that information. That's 100 hours at $8, and then 200 hours at $9. So let us slot in these figures. We can have 800 here and 1,800 there. All right, we add them up, we get our 2,600. We then have to include any other expenses which were there. We are told that there was a cost of hiring a special X-ray equipment of 500. So this special X-ray equipment is actually an indirect, a direct expense. All right, it is almost like an expense. All right, but it is actually necessary for the production of this. So it is actually directly attributable to the production of this commodity. So it is an example of a direct expense. Okay, we can't call it an indirect. It is actually a direct expense because it is directly attributable. It is necessary for the product. The cost of hiring a special equipment for testing the well. So it is actually part of the production. So the 500 is also part of. All right. So all this, if we add up all these direct costs, we get what is called prime cost. The prime cost. Okay. Prime cost, which let us just add them all. We must get our 15,100. All right. Then after doing that, we have to go to the overheads. The overheads are, we have been told that the overheads, okay, we've got selling and administrative overheads are 20% of production of 250 models type is incurred. All right. So we have got labor hours actually. So the presumption here is that the overhead are being absorbed at direct labor hours, okay? Because according to our computation of overhead absorption rate, the activity which we involved were labor hours, okay? So let us just use the labor hours, okay? Which were actually incurred. So there was 100 hours in terms of the welding shop and 200 hours within the assembly shop. So we are also told that the welding shop overhead absorption rate was $4 and the overhead absorption rate for the assembly was $10. We determined that. So let us first deal with the 100 labor hours of the welding shop. All right, so 100 hours at the overhead absorption rate of $4. This should give us 400, and then for the assembly there were 200 hours, and we determined that the overhead absorption rate was $10, so that's 2,000. All right, we then add up and we get our 2,400. All right, so this is actually the, if we add up to the 15,100, we get 17,500. This is actually called the production cost. Production cost. All right, now when we determine the production cost, we then have to ask ourselves, were there any selling and distribution? The selling and distribution overheads are 20% of production cost. So selling and distribution costs, there's 20% of production costs, which we determined is 17,500. So this gives us our 3,500 here. All right, and we get what is called the total cost, which is 21,000. Total cost of the batch. Cost of the batch. But what about the cost per unit of the batch? Cost per unit within a batch. Cost per unit is equal to the total cost, which was 21,000, as we have just determined, divided by the units within the batch. How many units are within this batch? It is a batch of 250. So that's divided by 250. We should get our $84 per unit. I'm sure there you just have to replay the video to understand what is going on. All right, let us try to talk of service costing. All right, service costing is actually done in areas where the organization will be dealing or will be offering services, okay, to its customers. An example of a service is a barber service, a barber shop, or a hair salon. All those, they are just service um, service businesses. All right, so they use what is called service costing. All right. The major question is, what are service organizations? Service organizations do not make or sell tangible goods. Profit-seeking service organizations include accountants firms, auditors, um, tax computation. I mean, um, tax computational firms. All right, those who submit tax returns or calculate VAT for people. They are also service centers. I mean, service firms. Then we've got law firms, transport companies, banks, and hotels. They all do business within service industry. Almost all or not all not-for-profit organizations, for example, hospitals, schools, libraries, and so on, are also service organizations. So they indulge in service costing. All right. Service costing differs from other costing methods in the following way. In general, with service costing, the cost of direct materials consumed will be relatively small compared to the labor, direct expenses, and overhead costs. So, because we're not dealing in tangible commodities, then the cost of our direct materials or tangible input is going to be very low. Indirect costs tend to represent a higher portion of total cost compared with product costing. The output of most such organizations is often intangible, and it is therefore difficult to establish a measurable cost unit. So the characteristics of services, within an exam, you just have to memorize the SHIP acronym, okay? Because the characteristics are usually four. There is simultaneity, okay? Here we are saying that the services are usually consumed simultaneously, or at that point when the service is produced, that's the point at which the service is consumed. All right, so it is actually produced and being consumed at the same time. Right, so that's why we are calling that there is simultaneity with regards to services. There is also an issue of you can't actually inspect in advance to say, hey, I want the service the service which I'm going to consume is actually of this quality and so forth. You can't do that in advance. You only do it while you will be consuming the service when it is being produced. Okay, there is an aspect of intangibility. You can't actually touch that this is actually the service I've bought. All right, they are intangible. They can't be felt. They can't be touched. All right. So the performance of the service actually involves so many intangible factors. All right. An example is in the case of a music service. You can't actually touch it. All right. You can't. But usually you enjoy it if you enjoy the service provider, you actually end up enjoying the service. Okay. But you can't specifically say, I have actually touched the service. So there is some intangibility aspect. Then heterogeneity. They're actually heterogeneous in the sense that they are different. All right, they can't actually be exactly the same. Okay, a service from the same hair salon which you enjoyed last week is actually a little bit different from what you have enjoyed currently. All right, they can't actually come to the same enjoyable status. They tend to differ. All right, so the services, they tend to differ. Then perishability. The service is actually perishable. Okay, you can't actually store it. You can't store it and say, I've consumed a barber service today. Let me just preserve it for the next week. It doesn't work like that. They are consumed there when they are being produced there and there. You can't store them for future use. You can't buy them in bulk and so forth. Those are the characteristics of the services. But we need to measure them. So there should be some cost unit in service costing. All right. So usually the cost units are in the form of composite cost units. All right. So examples of composite cost units are, let us just say, industry. Let's try to have them the cost unit for a service. For the purpose of measurement, let's start with hospitals. Usually, hospitals, they usually have what is called a patient day. Patient day, which means the cost per patient per day. The cost of having a patient per day. Okay, the cost per patient per day. That's a composite. It is actually a composite cost unit. Then hotels. When you talk of hotels, usually they are worried of occupants, right? So that's occupied room nights. We are talking of occupants of a room, but per night. So this means the cost per occupied hotel room per night. Okay. What about the transport business? A transport business would usually have a composite transport. Usually has got what they are called passenger kilometer. Passenger kilometer. Okay. Passenger kilometer, where we are saying this is the cost per passenger per kilometer. Cost per passenger per kilometer. Okay. I'm sure we can have a simple example, right? A simple example where we just have to rest this case amicably, right? So let's try to do this only example, all right, and then we consider this part of the lecture done, so that we'll then have to delve into process costing. All right, so the following information is available for the Baker Safari Lodge, okay, for the Baker Safari Lodge for the latest 30-day period. Number of rooms available per night, that's 40. Then percentage occupants achieved 65%. Room servicing cost incurred 3,900. Calculate the number of occupied room nights. So the number of occupied room nights is actually going to be a composite. That's a composite cost unit. So we simply have to say part A, occupied room nights, that's equal to, how many days are we talking about? It was a 30-day period, so that's 30 days multiplied by number of rooms available, 40. So that's 40 multiplied by the potential occupancy. Okay, that's the percentage occupancy, 65%. And we should get our figure there in terms of the occupied room nights. So that's 30 multiplied by 40 multiplied by 65. We are having 708 nights, occupied room nights. All right, then we're done with our first part. Then let's go to part B. Calculate the room service cost per occupied room night. And we know that our total service costs were $3,900. So that's room servicing cost is equal to total cost incurred, that's 3,900. Total room servicing cost incurred $3,900 divided by 780. Is 780. That's the 780 we are talking about, and this should give us 2,900 divided by 780. That's $5 per room night. So when you use your cost, your cost plus, your full cost plus method, you just have to add the percentage on $5 to determine the profit which you want to make. I mean the selling price which you would want to make, which will give you some profit. Okay, sure, we are done. We are now left with process costing, and I hope in the next video you are going to enjoy everything with regards to process costing. So far, I hope you have been treated very, very nice. May the good Lord continue to bless you as you endeavor in your studies, as you actually swim the tide of this ACCA qualification. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, I hope to see you in our final video to this week, okay, where we have actually cemented everything required with regards to absorption, marginal job, batch service, and process costing. So in the next video, we'll be touching on this and on this only, process costing. That's our, so check out next video. I'm your guy, Jerem Chibukulu. I am signing out. Thank you.